back of me and that I was a normal guy. But watching Scott growing up, I realized, he's acting incredibly like the way I reacted when I was his age. So I was wondering, in the back of my mind, it was kind of gnawing at me. Could it be the same thing? Could it be the same thing? And he looked so much like me, and he acted so much like me. Could it be the same thing? So when the clinical psychologist said, your son has autism, I'm like, the main thing going through my mind is, yeah, okay, fine, but what else? My wife, on the other hand, she was sort of, uh-oh, my son has autism, what do we do now? And I'm more like, okay, he's got autism, what else?
Right.
Because I knew there was something else that the clinical psychologist hadn't said yet. And that something else was, so do you. She said, based on the last 2 hours of watching you and Scott both interact with each other, you're a classical example of an adult who somehow managed, through sheer force of will to overcome it and experience a productive and fairly normal adulthood in spite of it.
Tell us a little bit about your FACES organization that you have here in Florida.
Okay, well, FACES, it stands for the Florida Autism Coalition for Education and Services, FACES. That's sort of a parental support group that I formed because when we first found out about the diagnosis, we looked for a support group to join. And the nearest support group was all the way down in Daytona Beach. So my wife and I started going there, and it was a pretty long drive. And through Scott's school, we found out there were a lot of kids that were on the spectrum that were right here in Palm Coast that didn't go to that support group. So I decided to start one up here. And for people who know about autism, they know that when somebody who's on the spectrum gets a special interest about something, they really delve into it all the way. Well, when I found out that what I had all those years was autism and now my son had it, that became my new special interest. In neurotypical speak, they call it an obsession, but we call it a special interest. So I became an expert on it and started to do a lot of public speaking about it and a lot of education on it, where I would teach teachers. And part of what I did was I wanted to have a support group where parents in the same position could get together and talk to other people who were in the same position, who understood what they were going through because they were there.
Does your FACES group have some sort of website that parents with students with autism can go to access this support group?
Not yet, unfortunately. We are going to be working on a website,
okay.
But unfortunately with my professional career and raising my son and everything else, I haven't quite had a chance to work on a website
Understandable. What can the community do to get more involved with the FACES group? Is there any events that you hold on an annual basis? Or?
Well, we usually have a benefit concert once a year in September. It varies. It usually has music, dance. It's very good. Admission, there's no admission charged, but contributions are gladly accepted. And pretty much every penny we make, we donate back to the school to make up for the budget cuts that are coming down. So, as a matter of fact, we just donated to the head of the ABA, Ellen Kincaid. We just gave her $500 to use towards the autism program. We've given over $1,000 to different special education teachers for them to buy equipment they needed. Bunnell Elementary just put in a sensory integration room. We donated $300 to that. So every penny we raise, pretty much we donate back to the school so that they could do what they need to do, which they wouldn't be able to afford otherwise. We had a rummage sale a while back in the park on Florida Park Drive, Holland Park, James Holland Park, and we raised about $500 there that we donated to the school. We usually try to have support group meetings once a month, which have been suspended for a while because I'm moving my office, so we don't have a place right now. But as soon as we get that settled, we'll be back having meetings again. And so basically, anyone interested in getting more active can call area code 386-447-9970, which is my home number. I run Faces out of my house right now, so my home number is the Faces number. Or they could email me at BRI for Bri, JUL for Julie, my wife's name, the number 1 at Juno, JUNO.com. So either call me or email me, and I'll be glad to get back to you with additional information.
All right. Can you tell us a little more about your son's current education, kind of how they're working with him in school right now, and just his current status as a student?
His current status is excellent. I couldn't ask to be more blessed on this regard. He started out, when he first got diagnosed, we're working with CARD, C-A-R-D, Center for Autism and Related Disabilities. And because we're in Flagler County, we work out of the Jacksonville office. If you're in Volusia County, you work out of the Orlando office. So that's sort of the dividing line. When we spoke to one of the CARD developmental pediatricians, I asked them flat out, from 0 through 10, 0 being perfectly normal, 10 being profound, where would you rate Scott? And he said an 8, which was bad. And they put Scott in a self-contained VE, varying exceptionality room, and he had an absolutely awesome teacher. And she worked with him, and she knew how to handle him. In the meantime, he had a built-in, not only father, but like I said, I tell him lovingly we're bros, because we both have autism. I'm very open with him about the fact that him and I both have autism, but his mother doesn't. So, and then whenever we see other friends, I tell him, he's a bro, in a good way. So I'm putting a positive spin on it, and I'm trying to bring out the positive. Well, between the school working with him and the fact that we've gotten excellent teachers and me working with him, he started out self-contained, very much affected. The second year when he started pre-K, because he was in preschool before that, self-contained. Pre-K, they actually put him in a semi-inclusion. He was in an ESE room most of the day, but they pull him out into an inclusion class part of the day. We went back to the CARD specialist, and I said, well, where does he rate on the spectrum now? And this proves that your space on the spectrum isn't fixed. It's mobile. You can actually determine where you fit. He said, well, based on what I'm looking at now, I would say he's no higher than a 5, possibly a 4, 4.5. He was talking, he was smiling, he was even laughing, and he was getting sociable. Well, he went into first grade this year. The first year they actually give grades. Right before that, he went back for his last follow-up at CARD, and the same developmental pediatrician who gave him an 8 2 years earlier said, well, he's not even a 2 now.
Wow.
And I don't even need to see you back anymore because he's overcoming all of his difficulties. So he still has the IEP. He's in a full inclusion class now. They still pull him out for OT and PT, and he gets extra adaptions for for reading.